Okay, so I've noticed often that a lot of these entertainers, they just follow suit with each other, and they all tend to do the same thing or similar thing. And sometimes I wonder if there is, aside from them just following the script, I know that they learn it and they see it because they raise their kids in that. And so, me myself, I'm just a YouTuber. I'm also a consumer of legacy media. The majority of my life, in a sense, of when I could actually see the television. For example, when I was a kid, my mom would limit my television. And then, like, when I was a military spouse, I was limited by television because of the fact we just plain didn't have it. And, there actually came a point that I started kind of realizing it really wasn't that important as I aged. It just really wasn't that important. And the thing is, I had a few favorite shows, and I learned it was the individual people. It had nothing to do, so it was more or less me wanting to watch the individual person. They were my favorite. It wasn't the TV in and of itself. It was just something that kind of made me, it was a little dopamine rush that I got just from watching a show that kind of made me feel good, which was some of those feel good daytime shows. Yeah, the soap operas, I watched them when I was younger, but they started getting boring very fast. My dad was right because he told me something. He says, I watched soap operas a couple of times. He says, I watched one for maybe about a year or so, and then I stopped watching it for 15 years. And then he says that I started watching it again, and he says the same thing was going on. Now, I didn't do the math at the time to realize that my dad he probably embellished, which he did with the story. Sometimes he embellished a little bit, but I understood the point that he was getting at when he said that. His point was that the storyline just repeats. He even said the same thing with oil. He asked me one time, he says, do you remember, he asked me this in the past 5 years, do you remember back in the 1970s when they kept telling us that we were running out of oil? He says, we still have oil. And I said, yeah, I remember that. They kept telling us that over and over and over again. He remembers that too.